Hi guys, it's Mark Martin here at markjmartin.com, and I've got James Koerts with me here. He's the music pastor at Mikado Baptist Church in Macon, Georgia, and you may know his music just from his online store, koertsmusic.com, or from a choir arrangement that you've used at your church, and we're thankful for him giving us some of his time today. So good to have you here with us, James.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Let's just go ahead and you tell us a little bit about yourself so we can just know a little bit about you.
Well, sure. I am 39 years old and soon to be 40. Not looking forward to that day. But I've been serving in church music ministry for almost a couple decades now, just enjoying every minute of it. And been serving at Mikado Baptist Church for 8 years. And I love working with the choir and with church folks, and just love all things church music ministry, and also enjoy writing music, and especially for piano and for choirs and different things like that. So I don't know what else you want to know. There's not a whole lot. Probably the best thing about me is my family, my wife Beth, and our 4 children, Michael, Caitlin, Daniel, and Jacob. And they are all ages 9 and younger at the time of this recording. And so life is very busy for us, and we have a lot of fun.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. Wanted to talk to you today about planning ahead. I know a lot of music pastors at this time of the year are, kicking things off. They may have a season that runs from fall to May. I don't know. Every church is different. But hope that we can just talk a little bit today about looking ahead and planning and how we can do that. Also might get into some writing too, because I love your stuff. Wanted just for you, if you could, can you just kind of give us a basic overview of what your ministry looks like, your music ministry? I know every music ministry is different. Somebody watching might have one similar to yours, or maybe not, but just help us to see kind of where you're coming from as far as your music ministry at Mikado.
Sure. We have been blessed. We're more of a traditional style church as far as we have a choir, we have an orchestra, and different ensembles, different teams like that. We've just been blessed to have just a lot of folks to come to our church. I have a choir of about 80 members, and I have an orchestra of about 20. And we have at least 12 piano players in our church. The Lord has just blessed us with piano players. I serve with another gentleman who leads the singing, and I usually play the piano for the congregational music. And then I lead the choir, I lead the orchestra, that kind of thing. And we do a lot of instrumental stuff. We still do offertories, that kind of thing. So we'll have, our pianists will play, or we'll have ensembles, different things like that. We have our choir rehearsals and actually orchestra rehearsal on Wednesday nights. And then we sing and play, both services on Sunday. We have a morning service and an evening service. And is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to ask you again to clarify a little bit. So you're the music pastor, but you don't lead the congregational songs. Is that right? Is that what you said?
That is right. We have another fellow who is very gifted at congregational worship, and that's really his passion. And it's just a joy to work with him. When I came on board, I was leading singing, but when he came and obviously exhibited these gifts, we plugged him in there, and it was just a natural progression for me to go from leading singing to playing the piano. And I tell you what, it's opened up. That's really when I started writing piano arrangements, is when I started playing every Sunday. And I just kind of got the bug for worshiping at the piano. And that's kind of been my emphasis ever since. But yeah, we have another guy who chooses the songs that the congregation sings, and we work together. He kind of finds out what I'm doing with the choir or the orchestra, and then we put a service together. And then, like I say, he leads the singing. And when I'm not directing the choir, I'm at the piano.
Okay, awesome. Now, I might, again, go a little bit away from our plan here a little bit today.
Sure.
I'm probably over-planned kind of person in it. I got to watch that. Anyway, I wanted to hear from you if you could share with us a little bit about. There are a couple of things I've reached out to you over the years and asked you questions. You've been very gracious to offer some help. And there are a couple of things that we've used in our ministries that have been in my ministry that you shared with me that have been very helpful and taken us further down the road. And there's two things. One of those has to do with the orchestra, and the other has to do with having a music ministry kickoff at the beginning of the year. Can we start with the music ministry kickoff? That's something that I've kind of blogged about last week or so. Tell me a little bit about just your approach to that, why you do that. Just talk to us for a minute about that.
Well, of course, nothing's new with me,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I've learned it from others. In fact, when I came, everybody asked me, "Are you going to do a choir kickoff?" Well, yeah, let's do a choir kickoff. And it's just a way, even if your choir still rehearses over the summer, which we did for a long time, even if you're still going full momentum, it's good to have a reboot or a reset. And we use this as an opportunity to express our thanks to our choir members for serving. A lot of them have served for years and years and years, and so we'll budget it into the year, and we'll try to do some kind of big fellowship, which always involves food. This year, it was interesting. We actually did a barbecue dinner, and we met a little bit early. I think we met out at 6:30. Actually, in fact, I should remember it was yesterday we did it, and we just had a barbecue dinner and just had a good time of fellowship. And I bring them all over into our rehearsal space, and we rehearse a few songs, mostly songs that everyone knows, and I throw a new one at them to let them see that it's not all perfect, even though it is mostly perfect that first day. And usually we'll have a devotional and just a time of encouragement. And like I said, it's a great way. We typically, just to give you an idea, we normally run 60 people in our choir rehearsals. We had 80 people come out to our choir rehearsal. And that includes some new people as well. So it was a blessing to do that. So you're always going to get new people and people who are interested in joining the choir. That choir kickoff is a great time. If they don't do it this year, they might do it next year, because they know you're always going to have a kickoff, and you always are going to invite the church, anyone who wants to come. And also, typically, we introduce the Christmas program, although I forgot to do that this time. So I'm going to have to tell them all that, hey, we got something to look forward to next week. But we usually unveil what we're going to do for the Christmas program and start getting them excited about that.
So do you do this for choir and orchestra, or is it just choir?
Yeah, we used to do it just for choir, but as our orchestra grew and it really became a vital aspect of our ministry, we decided, hey, we need to do it for both. So we do it for both.
Okay, great. And so, I'm sorry, give me a second here. We've done it last year and this year. Last year we picked up a couple, and this year ours is going to be Saturday morning, and we're doing a brunch kind of thing, which we did last year, and it kind of worked well. So this year we're just going to do a light brunch and kind of the same format. I probably throw too much new stuff at them. That's just kind of my way. So I've got a few new songs I'm looking forward to presenting to them, and some ideas for the Christmas.
It's a great time to give them new music. And so I'm not opposed to that at all. In fact, I've done that in the past. I think they're excited. They're looking forward to what's coming up. And so, throw some new music at them, but especially music that they're going to be able to do well, because you don't want them to feel at the end of the rehearsal, man, it's like this every week. No, you want them to feel very positive about the experience. And then the next week will be reality.
So tell me, so tell me a little bit about kind of how much planning is it possible to overplan for that, to throw too much at them? Is this more, revealing stuff? Is the emphasis more on that, or is it on fellowship? Kind of talk to that, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, it can be however you want to approach it. I will admit that this year wasn't, of course, we have our planning team and everybody who's involved in organizing it. But as far as what I was concerned, there wasn't as much planning involved. It was more laid back because I knew we really needed a time of fellowship. I knew that there were new folks that were going to be prospects, and I just wanted to connect with them. We have also had some changes. We used to wear robes in our choir loft. We stopped doing that. So there were just some different dynamics involved. And so I just decided, let's just make the emphasis on fellowship this year. In the past we've had sing-throughs of the Christmas musical. So you can do all sorts of things. We this year we did we've done this a couple of years, door prizes, and everybody had a number, and we just it was just something silly and fun, and we had different tiers of door prizes, everything from Nutella products to chocolate, and we had big old bags of chocolate that we gave out. So it's just something to build camaraderie, build that family spirit in your choir. If all they do is come together and sing, that's good, but this is a volunteer choir. This is a ministry choir. And the way to have a better ministry is to have relationship. And so if we can build on those relationships, that's what it's all about. And a choir that prays together stays together, I guess you could say.
Cool. Good deal.
So it's been a blessing.
And I am here, and I don't know if this is coming through on the recording, but my apologies if you're getting a little bit of a buzz. I've got to figure that out. We'll see. It's the first time, so thanks for bearing with us here. So the other thing that I said you've been a help to me on is on starting an orchestra, which took some of the things we had talked about last year and applied them last year. And we were able to really see, and just kind of some feedback for you, we were able to really see a progression from an orchestra at the beginning of the year that played with the hymns, and that was it. To by the end of the year, they were actually accompanying the choir every Sunday, which just added so much, and forgive me, I'm talking with my hands, which just added so much to the time of worship in our ministry. And there's a piece of advice that you shared with me that you had got. So can you kind of pass that along as well and just talk a little bit about if somebody's out there that wants to do orchestra, but their church doesn't have it, or just has a few, but it's not really, moving forward. Can you speak to that for a minute?
Well, again, nothing's new under the sun,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I picked this up from somebody. So if you're watching, thank you. I don't know who you are, but I will say I'm not sure if I remember exactly the piece of advice. So if I missed the target, let me know.
That's fine.
But I remember I was struggling with getting everybody in the group to get on board, to get them to be faithful, and we were playing, like you say, for congregational music, and for maybe the occasional offertory or the occasional choir number. And I actually had a conversation with a man in my church who I respect very much and who is very musically minded and interested in the music ministry. And he said, I bet you'd get better participation if they felt like they had a place to be at every week, and if there was really a strong purpose for them from week to week. So I took that to heart, and I realized, we really need to take this orchestra ministry seriously. And so I just decided, we're going to play for every offertory that we can. We're going to be here every Sunday. We're going to play an offertory once a month if we can. We're going to really work diligently. And over time, people began to see, wow, we're actually going to do something every Sunday, and wow, I'm needed in my place because this is moving. And even if the song only calls for a flute, and a couple trombones or whatever, we're going to do it. And over time, people began to see the relevance of the church orchestra ministry, and we had a skeletal team. Over time, people saw that and they began becoming more faithful, and then you get new members,
Yeah.
and they're even more faithful sometimes in some cases.
So what, does that, do you find that attracts, if someone comes to your church who plays an instrument, the fact that you have that, does that attract them?
I think so. I think when they see that people are involved every week, it's a big deal. And even if you have a small group, that's how you grow it, by showing them that there's a vital ministry week after week.
And you know what I found, and I'm sorry, it was what I found last year is, sometimes I could probably err toward not asking a lot of people. Maybe they think differently. I feel like sometimes I'm hesitant to ask them to do something because I know they have jobs, I know they have families, and I don't want the music ministry just to dominate their weekend and their extra time, although there are time commitments. But one thing that I found is that instrumentalists want to play their instrument.
Oh yeah.
And so, once you get into that routine of having to practice and they're there and they're used to it, they love being a part of it. And yeah, you still need to be careful not to ask them to do too much, but that they want to be involved. Have you found that same thing to be true?
Oh, absolutely. And, it's interesting because the more they play, they've actually gotten better. And
Yeah.
you can have and we have professionals. I've got an instrumentalist who actually started a community orchestra, and he plays in our little church orchestra. He didn't tell me that until he'd been playing for a couple of years, and I said, "What on earth? You could have been directing this." But he just enjoys playing, and so we have professionals, and we have people who played back when they were in high school, and they just wanted to pick it up because they wanted to worship the Lord in this way. Two, we have some high school students and even upper elementary who express a great deal of interest, and they're getting on board and gives them an opportunity to grow musically. And you're absolutely right. I mean, instrumentalists love to play. Give them an opportunity. Now, I don't think there's one song that I think there actually might be one song that we do without the orchestra.
Uh-huh.
And the reason for that is because it's probably a quiet song, and I don't want the orchestra playing with it. But everything we do, and I'll get some of these orchestrations that are just strings, and we actually don't have a lot of strings. We have more woodwinds and brass, and I'll take the time to write out brass and woodwinds. I know not everybody can do that, but it's so worth it if you can, because even on quieter songs, I'll write a quiet brass part, just so that they're involved in every aspect of the service.
Yeah, let me insert this too. By the way, if you're watching this and you're interested in doing that, like writing your own stuff, and you haven't done that, let me know if you're interested in some more information on that. I'm no expert, but I kind of took some of this advice last year that he had shared, and last year wrote some parts for some instrumentalists, and it was the first time for me, and so it's kind of been a progression. Maybe I could pass along some tips on that, and I don't know, maybe you could speak to that as well. So do that in the comments below if you would. But there was something that you said there that made me think. Oh yes, your main music instrument is piano, right? Okay, so I'm curious, how much before you started the orchestra, did you have a lot of experience in orchestra or playing, and if someone's out there and say, I've never done orchestra, but I want to do that, but I've never played in an orchestra. I'm just a piano guy, or I'm just a singer. Everybody's at a different level of their musicality when they're directing. So, were you in an orchestra before? And did you have experience? And if yes, how did that help? And if not, what helped you start out?
No, not at all. I've never played in an orchestra. I tried out for the Youth Symphony Orchestra when I was in high school, but I didn't want to learn theory or technique, and so I never learned my scales. And so I got done playing my advanced piano music in the interview, and they said play an E-flat scale. And I looked at them with like a fish look, what's an E-flat scale? And they were like, seriously, thanks for coming today.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt bad and went and learned my scales. But so I never had an opportunity to play with an orchestra, never directed an orchestra. If you can keep time, if you can direct a choir, you can direct an orchestra. Now, are you going to be the best candidate for that? Maybe not, but you can grow as a musician. I remember I used to, and I actually had an old music director who did this, and I learned this from him. He could not, or at least he didn't, use scores. He wasn't able to read scores, and so he would write in cues in the choir music. Okay, the oboe comes in here. He would write oboe, and then the brass. Mm-hmm. And so I did that for years. I would want to read a choral score, and I would have all the entrances marked in there, and so I'd know to kind of point, to the French horn when the French horn was supposed to play or something like that. Well, over time, I got more comfortable with reading scores, and now I can read them well just from learning and growing as a musician. But no, you don't need any experience. If you can keep some, then you can lead an orchestra group. Now, the better you get, the more you hear things, and now I can follow along and okay, I know the trombone, missed that part. We need to go back and fix that or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's good, very good. Something I don't, I'm sure this isn't really original with me, but I told our orchestra, in fact, one of the guys that's just joining us in the orchestra, I was talking with him today, and I said, I've never played, I like music, I know music pretty well, but I'm your student when it comes to your instrument, so please tell me if I write something too high for you, or if that
Right.
jump is hard. I don't know your instrument, and I think people respect that.
Yeah, and the good thing, a couple things about that. The good thing, the music notation software now, they tell you when you write something out of range, which is great because I try to remember all those ranges, and yet you're always going back to your orchestration book.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are times you write something. I look at my earlier stuff and I think, wow, that's horrible. I really should invest time in rearranging those. But you learn as you go along, and that's the best way to do it. Just learn as you go along, and don't be afraid to take this to the instrumentalist and say, hey, does this look like something that would sound good? And don't be afraid to, there's one or two songs. In fact, I think I brought one out recently that, the orchestra kind of groans because they know I arranged it and it wasn't good. And usually they're happy about stuff I arranged, but this one in particular, it's like, yeah, it's pretty bad, but let's just do it.
let's do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But you learn, and yes, the instrumentalist, any one of my instrumentalists, knows much more about their instrument than I do, and that's a reality. But you and don't get me wrong. I mean, if you have the opportunity to study orchestration and conducting, take that opportunity. But I will say this: as the director, with that final product, what you want that to be. And so probably you are the best qualified to stand in front of that orchestra. Like I say, as long as you can keep time and what sounds good and what doesn't. There are many times I've looked at my instrumentalists and I've had to say, I couldn't say, this is the technique you need to use. But I was able to say, hey, take this home, work on it, and let's bring it back next week. Take your teacher or work on it with another person, and let's bring it back next week and play it together. And oftentimes, a lot of things are worked out that way.
Now, I want to get to a little bit about planning a worship service, and to kick that off, I'm actually going to my website. I had this written down, but I think I must have pulled this from a different file. So a note's no good if it's not where you put it, where you don't find it anyway. So I'm going to my website, but while I'm doing that, I'm pulling up a question that someone's wanted to ask you. Can you kind of course, this other gentleman in your church plans the congregational music. Can you kind of speak to at least what your approach was when you were doing that? Is there some thought process you went to when you were planning a service, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm actually not very good at that, to be honest with you. I usually defer to my friends. I've got one friend I can call up, say, hey, we're doing a theme about the Lamb of God. Can you give me songs? And he'll just rattle off all these songs. I'm like, how do you do that? And I'm a student of the hymnal, and so I'll flip through it and see what works. And then, like I said, this other gentleman that I serve with now, who leads the singing, he has that ability to make medleys and just craft songs together in a way that's very unique. So, I would encourage people to draw from other people who are able to do that. Always think outside of the box. We have the privilege of a lot of the songs that I introduce to the choir wind up congregational songs down the road, which I'm thrilled about because I want the congregation to be able to sing a lot of those songs. And he has the ability to take those and craft those in his medleys or sets, whatever you want to call those, in a really great way. As far as if I were giving tips, just don't be set in one book. Of course, we use screens. That gives us a little more opportunity to use other things. We have our hymnal, but that allows us to use other hymnals as well and other sources. And you have to in this day and age. And the publishers know that. They're, making their hymnals available online because it's a pick and choose kind of day and age anymore.
I think you just answered this question, but I'm going to read it anyway. Nehemiah says, every time I sit down to select music, I struggle with knowing where to start. Often the greatest struggle has to do with the wealth of hymns I have. Usually I just end up working my way through the hymn book or chorus book, singing, playing songs, until I've got the four needed for the service. How do you go through the process of selecting the music?
Yeah, I mean, you need to know what your congregation likes to sing. I mean, and that's something you obtain, I think, over time. Um, a lot of times, because we have to rehearse the choir anthems so far out, a lot of times our services revolve around the choir anthems. So if we're doing, I used the example earlier, a song about the Lamb of God, then the congregation, they would sing songs that reflect that. It's not to say that the choir music is king, but let's just face it, we spend our most amount of time rehearsing for that piece. And so that is, if we know in advance what the pastor's sermon series is on, we'll try to, make something work out for that. But yeah, you are thinking of themes. I honestly also think that it's unrealistic to think that every single Sunday that you can do a theme-related service. For one, I think that would kind of, I don't know if I'd want to go to a church that did that every single Sunday. Now, don't get me wrong, some churches do that, and I don't want to alienate myself from those churches, but, to me, there's nice variety in having more than one theme or a theme that branches to another aspect of it. You can do all sorts of things there. Have I not answered the question?
No, I think that helps. Yeah, that's good. Anything else on that?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with going through the songs that the congregation sings. I mean, again, you want to know what they sing, what they enjoy singing, and most of the time you want to choose songs that they enjoy singing, and only have one or two songs that is new to them or is not as well known to them.
That's good. Sometimes I've actually pulled out too many new songs at once or too many unfamiliar songs, and that can kill a service if they don't know which way's up.
It will. The best thing to do is just, and we tell them, hey, this is probably going to be a new song for you, or you may not. We haven't sung this in a while. Let's sing it and let's really think of the words, and we might have to sing it again just so that we can get more familiar with it. But that's a very rare thing. And there's a lot of schools of thought on this, but where our church has settled is we just love to sing the songs we know, and so it is very rare that we sing new songs because we're not, you just don't have the opportunity. We don't have an hour-long song service. If I did, man, we'd be learning new songs all the time. But the main thing's the main thing, the preaching of the word, and then we want to, just use songs that encourage and edify and teach and instruct, and so it's a challenge, but it's a worthy challenge.
That's good. So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind. You've mentioned it earlier, and this will be the last thing here. And then I think I have one last question after this topic. So just hang with us here. So talk to me a little bit about writing and your approach. I mean, are you heavily steeped in theory? Do you have all of the, analytical stuff planned out ahead of time? Or, I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm not a theory buff.
And that's fine. I wanted people to hear that.
I really don't.
Just so they know. I mean, your stuff is really, I enjoy it, and our church family enjoys it. And so, you don't have to be know the ins and outs of theory to be able to write music.
I appreciate that. I feel like I'm learning more as I go along, and I'm being open to new worlds of music by learning more theory. But no, I didn't have a strong theory background, and it's taken me a while to get where I am. But no, often what I will do is I will just sit at the piano here and I will just improvise. And a lot of times out of my improvisations come, ideas that stick and that I can work with. And, a lot of my arrangements, and I'm probably going to get criticized for this, but this is who I am. A lot of times I don't have the full scope of the arrangement figured out. A lot of times it's figured out as I go along, and that has really I prefer that way. I'm a little ADD, and so and that's kind of a joke. Although I know there are some people who really are ADD, but I'm kind of I gotta get through arrangements, and to me, it's a joy to have it completed, and it's hard work to do it, and but it's worth it. But no, I don't approach it from a theory standpoint. Usually, I just approach it from a what works, what sounds good to me theory, and or approach, and then after I've done that, then I try to work out the hitches in it and figure out, okay, what's going to be some better theory aspects. And then when it gets to an editor, of course, they make it even better. So that's pretty much how it works.
So, like, how from start to finish, about how long does it take you to put out an arrangement?
Oh, well, it depends. Piano arrangements go pretty quickly. Piano arrangements, I have arranged a piano arrangement in as little as 20 to 30 minutes. And my more advanced ones will take several hours over several days. An average piano arrangement takes me between 1 and 2 hours to arrange. Now, when you're talking about choir, that's a totally different story. Choir involves much more, and it usually ends up being several hours to do a choral arrangement.
Okay, so
like around 4 to 6 to 8.
Okay. And then orchestration, you would say, is probably a whole nother level after that.
Oh, yeah, orchestration's a bear. So, it's fun, and I'm not that great at it, but I enjoy it so much that I do it all the time, and I hope to become good at it someday. And we'll see. Who knows? Maybe I'll do some orchestrations more in the future.
So, with a family, a music ministry, how do you fit that in the cracks? I mean, how do you find time to write?
Well, I've had to duplicate myself several times over, but no, that is a great question, and it's always a challenge. And I'll be honest with you, family first, and ministry is first. After family, of course. What someone has said, how do you find time to write all the music that you write? Well, the truth is, I don't have very many hobbies. I don't golf, which is a huge time killer. And I'm not into sports. I'm not very well-rounded. And so when you don't have any real hobbies, your hobby is writing music, and you can find time for it.
Okay, cool. Very good. Well, thank you so much for giving of yourself today and sharing. I am sorry, I'm clicking. I'm a little ADD as well. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and some of these thoughts. If I could ask you one last question, but before I do, I'm going to put a link down on this post to a little 1-hour DVD course that you did with Greg Howlett's, about $10, where you talk about arranging and some of the myths of arranging. By the way, watch that, and that helped alleviate some of my inhibitions and fears about actually push and publish here on my site in the free download I did a month or two ago. So I'm going to link to that. Hope you can find those who are watching this can find that helpful. And also, I'm going to be putting at the bottom a little link to a worship. What did I call it? A roadmap for planning a worship service. Hopefully, that'll be a help to you as well. But if you could answer this question. Kind of going with a brand on the site, leading church music with skill and authenticity. We want to do things excellently in our ministries, but we don't want to lose our hearts, and we don't want to do it just for performance sake. So we want to be authentic and really be worshiping God. Can you tell us, I know I'm putting you on the spot, I didn't let you know ahead of time we were going to do this, but can you tell us one thing that as music directors we could do to fulfill that today or this week to lead church music with skill and authenticity?
Well,
sorry, Big. I meant to tell you ahead of time. So
that's right. No, I can tell you a lot of things. What do you want to hear?
Yeah.
Pray. Just be in the right relationship with God and others. It's all about people. We're not music pastors because of the music.
That's good.
We're music pastors because of the people. God has given us this field of expertise or interest, and we need to use it to the best of our abilities. But when it comes down to it, It's all about people, and I'm learning that every day. I have a lot to learn in that area, but God calls us to people and to relationships, and we can have the best choral orchestral program, in the Southeast, but it's as sounding brass and tinkling cymbal if we don't have a right relationship and exhibit the love of Christ with others. So pray and relationship. I got it down to 2. How's that?
That's good. That's good. That'll work. Well, thanks so much, and hope this has been a help to you all today, and that you're still with us, and that you've enjoyed this. Let us know in the comment section below what stood out to you most, what was the biggest help to you, and we'd love, and also just give us some feedback on this format. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, and we hope that you are able this weekend to lead your church family to worship God, that you do it well, but that you also are authentically worshiping